Man, it has been a while. I don't know if I even remember how to do an intro anymore. What am I supposed to say? Like, hit the like button and subscribe? I don't know. Or actually, I think I have an idea. Yo, Dark Angel, can you record an intro for my YouTube video?
Oh yeah, man, I got you. What's up, guys? It's Appleoshi here. Welcome back, Apple Army. It's good to have y'all for another video. Today, we're gonna be...
Not locked in, I see.
And that should do it. So, ever since I released the hour and 40-minute anti-snake ad in 2022, I've been getting asked to make a video for pretty much every character in the roster. And considering that I devoted an entire year of my life to covering just one of these guys, maybe that's not the best idea. The solution that I came up with was a massive project called the Summer of Matchups. This started out as a forum that I released back in January, asking Greninja players which matchups they struggle in the most. And after months of hard work, it eventually turned into a series of weekly documents and video guides covering 10 of the most problematic matchups for Greninja players. While the response to the project has been super positive, I've come to the realization that a lot of Smash Ultimate players don't necessarily know how to learn matchups. And despite the huge role that this subject plays on the competitive scene, you'd be hard pressed to find a guide on how to actually learn matchups. Until now. So today, instead of teaching you all the ways to deal with Diddy Kong's banana... Wait, I did that already? Okay, Steve's blocks. Wait, that too? Sonic's spin, oh my god. Okay, screw it. Today, we're gonna learn how to learn and beat any character as any character. Alright, so what's step one in learning a matchup? I really don't mean to come across as rude by saying this, but you need to go to therapy. Not to call it the modern day mental health crisis, but if you thought that something like global politics was mentally taxing, try being timed out by a Sonic with McDonald's Wi-Fi on Elite Smash. Some people just don't have the mental stamina required for competitive Smash. I mean, we all know that one person where every time that they lose a set, they'll blame it on something seemingly outside of their control and run to tell every single person in the venue about it. This character just presses B and escapes my combos. Why is your character so short? I can't hit you.
Dude, what is that up to? You just hit me from fucking North Korea.
Mentality is something absolutely huge when it comes to learning matchups, and by blaming others, you're really not doing yourself any favors. Instead, take accountability for your losses and recognize that it's no one's fault but your own. That might come across as a bit of a doomer mentality, but there is a silver lining to it. And that's the fact that whenever something's your fault, it's completely within your control to fix it. Anytime that you take a loss, you should be treating it as a lesson and using it as motivation for improvement. So many people get caught up in the mindset that they need to win. And honestly, that shouldn't necessarily be your goal. Your goal should be to play well and do better than you did last time. If you're messing up your recovery angles, go practice them in training mode. If you're struggling against spin dash, go learn the counterplay. It's so incredibly important to get out of the mindset of making excuses and start making improvements instead. Despite what the Sonic's memes might have you believe, any matchup is doable, and by devoting the time to learning it, you'll only come out as a stronger player. Okay, so we went to therapy and we're feeling a lot better. Now can we start learning matchups? No, clean your room first. Bro, I'm actually sounding like Papa Lotion. So beyond mentality, organization is an absolute requirement. If you do research on the Wario matchup in January, but don't get it played until July, do you really think that you're going to be able to remember every single detail to the T? Being organized allows you to both lay out your ideas and refer to them in the future. So what's the best way to be organized? I don't know. That's really up to you. Whether it's loading up a Google Doc, getting out the pen and paper, or texting it to your mom on iMessage, everyone's ideal system for organization is different. I can't tell you what works for you, but I can give you a tiny bit of insight on what works for me. What I did personally was I stole this template from JJ Rockets. JJ Rockets is an incredibly smart player that's been around since Brawl days. A little while back, he did a mini series on picking up Pyra and Mithra, and in it, he showed his system of organization in an app called Notion. In it, he included a list of every character with their own page to open up and write notes in. On top of that, he even linked a template that you're able to use for yourself. Now, me personally, I cannot recommend using Notion enough, and I'm still eagerly waiting for my Apple Notion sponsorship offer. There is a bit of a learning curve to it, but once you get into a flow state, it's an incredible organization tool that's completely free. If you're interested in using it for yourself, I've linked both JJ's series and the template in the description below. Okay, so we've got our organization tool open. Where do we go from here? While every character in Smash Ultimate is different, Smash Ultimate is still Smash Ultimate. And part of that comes with a key fundamental traditional game states. No matter what, every character is going to have to play neutral, every character is going to have to play advantage, and every character is going to have to play disadvantage. So let's go ahead and organize these into different sections. Now expanding a tiny bit further, what is considered advantage state? The way that I see it, you have your combos, juggling, edge guarding, and ledge trapping. And what's disadvantage? When you're not doing that. You're going to have to consider how to escape your opponent's combos, land, recover, and get off of ledge. And just like that, we have a ton of direction to go off of when approaching a matchup. So what about neutral? Can we break that down into similar categories between matchups? Yine. So you may have heard that neutral is the most complex game state in all of Smash Ultimate. And that is completely true. Every character has a different moveset that they're able to use in neutral, and sometimes there's not all that much overlap. I mean, think about it. Would you treat Steve's walls, Diddy Kong's banana, and Sonic's spin dash the same way? Unless your counterplay is literally turning off your Nintendo Switch? Probably not. With that said, we can address these more complex moves in their own sections that fall under neutral. As for the overlap between matchups, you may want to consider factors such as your opponent's movement attributes, out of shield options, and aerials. For example, if I say that Cloud's fastest out of shield option is Uppy on frame 7, and Fox's fastest out of shield is Nair also on frame 7, I can effectively treat these two moves the same. If Pikachu's poor airspeed means that walking backwards won't get me hit by a landing aerial, the same should apply to Diddy Kong. The more that you learn about matchups, the more that you're going to find overlaps between characters and improve as a player. So from here, the only question is, how do we know what our opponent's options are not only in neutral, but also in advantage and disadvantage? Do your homework. No, I'm just kidding. But knowing your resources is massive. Luckily for us, you can find tons of resources through character Discord servers. The problem is, people don't do this. The amount of times that I've seen players pop into another character Discord server and say something like, I play Samus, how do I beat Snake? Is ridiculous. You need to do your own research, and that can be accomplished in a number of ways. Most character Discord servers have an FAQ page, and there's so much valuable information in here that often goes overlooked. For example, if we go into the Wolf Discord, we'll see sections like, how does Wolf play neutral? What are Wolf's best stages? What are Wolf's combos and kill options? What are Wolf's weaknesses? How should Wolf recover? Wow, these look so useful. What happens if we search for the keyword Greninja so I can see how this matchup plays out for my main? What's this? A week-long joint matchup project between the Wolf and Greninja player base documented into a 14-page paper? Wow, I should look through Discord servers more often and not ask generic questions. But anyways, if you want to access every character Discord server, I'm leaving a link to a page where you can find them below. Now, it's not just character Discord servers. You can find resources such as character guides, anti-character guides, and matchup charts. Let's talk about that last one. This goes back to the mentality section, but please take matchup charts with a grain of salt. A lot of people fall into the trap of seeing their main in -1, starting beef about how their main actually wins the matchup, and go on with nothing being gained from the interaction. Now for me personally, I don't believe in the concept of a matchup chart. This is why despite numerous comments that I get asking for me to make one, I am almost opposed to the idea of doing so. Taking every interaction in something as complex as Smash Ultimate and reducing it to a single number is doing such a disservice to the beauty of the game. For example, if I were to show you this image, what could you tell me about how Ridley plays neutral against Fox? Probably not much. Where it does help is being able to see the mindset of players as they create the matchup chart.
Come on, think.
This matchup sucks, and if you are losing Snake Greninja, you are getting skill issued.
Well, usually. It really depends on the person making the matchup chart, but whenever they give you insight on what your character struggles with and what their character struggles with, that can allow you to focus on more specific areas of the matchup. Let me show you an example of this happening in real time. A little while back, I was doing research on the Bayo matchup for Greninja. In referencing Lima's matchup chart, these were the areas that he claimed that Greninja struggles in.
Greninja's really easy. That character doesn't work versus Bayo. If you dash attacks your shield, you up out a shield. And if he got that dash attack, he has to read your air dodge to get one hit. You get hit by up throw up air in like a very small percent range, and then after that, you just bounce the up air. Because of bats, his whole game plan doesn't work. And because his hitboxes are so finicky, your heal set will just go under his forward air and will go under his nair and we'll just beat it. And the character has nothing on Bayo at ledge. And then you just do a bunch of nairs off stage and up Bs off stage, and he can't get past the hitboxes because his character doesn't have a hitbox on his up B.
Got him!
It's just a really bad character versus Bayo.
The Texas option, no kill though. Gets the nair. I got it.
It looks like he may commit suicide. Suicide is badass.
Now, this isn't a knock on Lima or anything, and it's actually quite the opposite. Because he took the time to address the matchup in detail, I was able to devote my time to theory crafting, labbing out interactions, and troubleshooting pretty much every single one of his arguments. And you know what? I became a better player because of it. Now imagine what would have happened if I saw Greninja in +2 for Bayo, and I decided that this matchup isn't possible or isn't worth my time. It all goes back to mentality and your perspective. Nobody has control of your efforts but you. It's just up to you to apply all the knowledge gained through the time that you've invested into your character. So now that we have a feeling for what our opponent's options are, how do we find out how they interact with our character's moveset? VOD review. VOD review is an incredibly overlooked part of improvement, and I'm really not sure why I don't see more players doing it. And I'm not just referring to your own VODs. Watching sets of top-level representatives of your character is an incredibly effective way to learn how your character's kit interacts with another character's kit. So you might be asking, how do we find these VODs? Every time I search Fox Duck Hunt, I end up on the National Geographic channel. So searching for VODs on YouTube is really tricky for some reason. I have no idea why, but even if you search Lucario Ice Climber Smash Ultimate, the search results start to get really weird really quickly.
Ice Climbers win.
What's up? Can a low come up in your crib? Man, fuck you. I'll see you at work. Oh, nigga, don't hate me because I'm beautiful, nigga. Maybe you got rid of that old yee-yee ass haircut you got, you get some bitches on your dick. Nigga.
What?
And people wonder why Armadillo is 0-5 on Big D. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and recommend you all to this site called SmashTube. This site is incredibly simple to use. All you have to do is select the characters, hit search, and all existing VODs of that matchup will suddenly appear. If you want to try it out, it'll be linked below. Also, if you plan on using Twitch VODs, please get into the habit of archiving them. Twitch VODs aren't like YouTube videos, and they'll be set to disappear after a few days. So if your favorite player is on the side stream, good luck finding that VOD again in the future. All you have to do to archive it is find a video downloader, upload it to your YouTube channel, save it as unlisted, and boom, you've now both saved storage space on your device and archived it for free. Okay, so what are we looking for in VODs? Again, everyone has a different method, but I'll share what I personally do. Whenever I watch a VOD, I'll have an open spreadsheet off to the side. That spreadsheet is organized with different columns, split up into the interaction, Greninja player, opponent, opponent's character, the timestamp, notes, and a ranking. The Greninja player, opponent, and opponent's character are pretty self-explanatory, but let me go over the ones that aren't. The interaction is just the context of what I'm clipping. This can be nair usage, water shuriken usage, advantage state, recovery, whatever. I'll reserve the term awareness for matchup awareness and everything related to a specific matchup. So if Greninja uses forward air to break Steve's wall, I'll put in 2 interactions labeled as awareness and forward air usage next to the timestamp. So how do we get that timestamp? Super simple. Right-click the YouTube video, hit copy URL at current time, and paste it into your spreadsheet. After that, the note sections are where you give context of the interaction. Did the Greninja throw a banana at Diddy Kong? Write banana usage. This is just for us to be able to refer to specific interactions whenever we want to do so in the future. As for ratings, I'll just write awful, bad, okay, good, or great. That way you can tell if it was a good interaction or a bad one and learn from it. So now that I've explained it, let me show you how it would look to rate an interaction in real time. First of all, in this clip, Tarek is playing against a Steve player named I Refuse. Easy labels. Here, Steve minecarts, Tarek jumps over it with nair, combos into a dash attack back air, and forward smashes to edge guard the minecart off stage. So in that interaction, I label nair usage, dash attack usage, back air usage, advantage state, forward smash, and edge guarding. And since this is very Steve related, we can toss in awareness for matchup awareness. Copy the timestamp, make a quick note, and boom. Just like that, we've learned that Greninja's Nair is great at beating out Steve's minecart, and that forward smash can edge guard it as a recovery option. It's really as simple as that. If you start taking notes whenever you watch VODs, you're gonna learn what does and doesn't work in a matchup, and you can toss that information right into Notion. Alright, so we've looked at VODs to get an understanding of what's good and what's bad. What's next? I mean, think about it. Literally. Now that you have an understanding of how the opponent's kit works, it's time to meet in the middle and think of how our character's kit interacts with their character's kit. This is commonly referred to as theory crafting because you're crafting theories. Now, to give you an example of this in action, I'm going to make a bold claim here that's bound to make even Rister Mice do a double take. Greninja Sonic is even. Okay, wait. Before you click off this video and dismiss everything that I've said so far, let me back up that statement. Sonic Spin Dash is an insanely good tool in neutral that lets him whiff punish characters from across the stage. Despite this, one of the things that it loses to is long-lasting, disjointed hitboxes. And which of Greninja's moves falls into that category? Nair! If I get the timing down on Sonic Spin Dash, I can suddenly stuff him out with one of my most rewarding buttons in neutral. Okay, but what if I don't get the timing down? Sonic reacts, and I eat a Spin Dash, right? At the mid-range, no. Because Greninja's Nair only has 7 frames of landing lag, I can shield the spin if I miss and we reset to neutral. The same way that I have to anticipate his spins to punish him, Sonic has to anticipate my Nairs to punish me. Not to mention that if I don't like the way that a spin looks, I can just jump over Sonic for center stage. And just like that, I've essentially crafted my neutral tree and game plan for the matchup. This is the call and response approach to matchups that I highly recommend for players to take. Start by identifying the issue and then craft your own solution. Now, do I really believe that Sonic Greninja is even? I really couldn't be bothered to give an opinion, but through theory crafting, I know that at the very least, this interaction when played optimally is. Let me give you another example. At frame 3, Mr. Game & Watch's up B gives him literally the best out of shield option in the game. If Greninja so much as breathes on Game & Watch's shield wrong, he's suddenly being taken for a ride. But what's the weakness of this option? It doesn't have the most range, allowing Greninja to space around it with forward air and safely pressure Game & Watch's shield. But let's add to that a tiny bit. A good player will recognize the risk of one move and opt to use another move instead. A great player will recognize the risk of one move and find a way to make that move work. Despite Game & Watch's up B out of shield being a direct answer to Greninja's Nair, you shouldn't take your ability to use Nair off the table. Once you find ways to make your quote-unquote bad options good options, it literally opens your third eye as a Smash player. Instead of landing directly on top of Game & Watch's shield, Greninja can use Nair's lingering hitbox to safely drift past him. Undershooting the Nair can make Game & Watch drop shield for a punish. After one forward air, a high Nair can start to shield poke Game & Watch and hit him out of shield directly. Even whenever you look at Greninja's dash attack, there's literally hundreds of ways to use the single move in neutral. I really want to drive this point home to you guys. It's not about what moves you use, it's about how you use them. So with that out of the way, it's time for everyone's favorite subject, science. As someone who has a reputation for pushing Greninja's meta, I'll often be credited as an insanely technical player. And alongside that praise, something that I'll often get asked is how I go about labbing. I mean, who else but Apple would think to extend Wario's bike with a buffered Shadow Sneak, keeping it in place to 2-frame him more effectively? So what's my secret? I've been giving you guys a lot of examples today, but let me preface this one by saying that I love Tarek and I mean no ill will towards him. He's a great guy, is always willing to answer my questions, and is incredibly talented at the game. With that said, I'm not sure that he labs as much as you'd expect for someone who's made a career out of Smash. And to be honest, I'm suspicious that this is the case with most players. Having played against Gluto so many times, Tarek is very adamant in his opinion that Greninja loses to Wario and that it's his worst matchup. Whether I agree with that sentiment or not, it isn't my place to speak. But what I can say is that the person that you would expect to know the Wario matchup better than anyone else has gone over 5 years without knowing that Greninja isn't able to throw Wario's bike to the left. It took me 2 minutes to find this. Come on, man. So again, this isn't a dig at Tarek, but when it comes to labbing, it's as simple as going into training mode and trying shit out. For every piece of tech that I find for Greninja, there have been about 10 ideas that lead to nothing. But is that really a bad thing? Not at all. I mean, if you told me 4 years ago that this little step would revolutionize Greninja's ability to use Hydro Pump as a movement option, well, I'd probably believe you because I'm crazy like that, but you get the point. Labbing goes hand in hand with theory crafting. It's literally just about thinking outside of the box and giving it a shot. Everything starts with an idea, and a lot of the time, those ideas are right in front of you. You just have to open your eyes and try not to take the game at face value. Take this interaction with Ness's yo-yo, for example. I could have seen it as a weird interaction and left it at that, but because I was open-minded, I found that this actually allows Greninja to manipulate the launch angle of yo-yo into a stage spike, tech the knockback, and punish Ness accordingly. Or how about this weird animation that I noticed if you buffer walking forwards after a forward air? This little spin can allow Greninja to shift his hurt box backwards and heavily punish grabs out of shield. You never know what you'll find by just trying, so it's literally as simple as giving it a shot. And you have the chance of getting featured on Beefy Smash Dudes content, so that's kind of cool. So if me calling out the mental health of Smash players wasn't bad enough, some people are not going to be happy with me for this next part of the video. Okay, so how do I say this? So I know that most of us learned how to do so in the first grade, but it's come to my attention that Smash players aren't exactly known for their problem-solving skills. Don't believe me? Alright, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I put out a form in January asking Greninja players for their least comfortable matchups. Alongside this, I asked the following. What aspects do you struggle with the most when fighting this character? Please be as in-depth as possible. Now, a lot of the responses were really in-depth and well-made, allowing me to theorycraft and troubleshoot common issues. The other half of responses, oh boy. Let me just go ahead and read some of these. Hello, and welcome to The Response Corner with your host, Appalotion. Question: what character do you struggle with fighting the most? Response: Yoshi. Question: what aspects do you struggle with the most when fighting this character? Please be as in-depth as possible. Response: so annoying, sad face. Very insightful. Thank you for your time. What character do you struggle with? Pikachu. Why? Very short, sad face. Different person, by the way. What character? Cloud. Why? Back air. Understandable. Have a nice day. What character do you struggle with? Steve. Why? Steve being Steve. Have you tried learning the matchup? It's goddamn Steve! Bowser Jr. What do I do in this matchup? I have no idea what the game plan is. If forward air feels like a useless move! Touching the damn monkey. So now that I'm done cyberbullying strangers on the internet, here's how to ask a question. First of all, I want you all to realize that it's okay to not know things. Trust me when I say that even top-level Greninja representatives don't know everything about the character. The same way that I often reach out to them with questions, they'll often reach out to me. Being able to bounce ideas between players is what helps us to improve our understanding of the game. And because of that, I don't think that you should be afraid to ask questions. With that said, let's address the common expression, there are no dumb questions. As someone that's had multiple careers in teaching, I find this to be half true. During my undergrad, I worked as a teaching assistant for both Russian and Chinese language courses at my university. Pro tip, by the way, it's probably not the best idea to make your university email the same as your Smash Bros YouTube channel name. But anyways, I'd always encourage students to approach me after class with questions I could clarify, more advanced topics, or tutoring to catch them up to speed. Even if we were in 4th semester Russian and they still had trouble with 1st semester verbs, I would never hold that against them. If anything, I'd appreciate them for being honest and asking for help. With that said, I've answered questions about exam dates by saying "смотри на syllabus" or "kanjashi dagang" more times than I can count. So in my opinion, no, there aren't any dumb questions, but man are there lazy ones. And just like in Kolya's Russian 101, I encourage you to do the bare minimum and refer to your resources before asking questions about Smash. There's a reason that I always link these things in my descriptions. It'll help you out so much as a player and make the job of the person answering the question all the much easier. Okay, so now that I got that whole rant out of the way, the question is, how do you form an actual question? Since I kind of roasted Tarek a tiny bit earlier, let me paint him in a good light by showing this conversation between us. The question that I asked here was about Steve Minecart. I wrote Tarek the following. Whenever Steve uses Minecart, jumping in is generally a bit of a risk because of his forward air or back air if he jumps out. A lot of the time, you really don't seem to care and play the air to air anyways. Right off the bat, I've established the context of jumping in against Steve Minecart. And to help contextualize contextualize things a tiny bit more, I sent Tarek a timestamp of the interaction that I'm referring to, which I was able to easily access via the VOD notes spreadsheet. Then I ask, is this something that you're confident in doing because of our huge full hop relative to Steve's? Phrasing the question this way asks for Tarek's input while presenting what I believe to be the answer. Now if we look at the message in full, we'll see that I've provided Tarek with a context, hypothesis, and question. This tells him that I've thought about the interaction in detail and solicits a more in-depth response. Tarek responds by saying that he feels very comfortable in this position as Steve's punish is often limited to only a forward air. Additionally, he confirms that Greninja's high jump height does play a role in the interaction as it's a commitment for Steve to challenge. With that information, I asked for clarification on a similar interaction. Do you find that the situation plays differently versus aerial one carts that boost Steve's jump height at all? Tarek then answers, yes it does if Greninja doesn't have ample response time, but losing this interaction can condition Steve into swinging in the future, giving Greninja a substitute. And just like that, I've improved my understanding of minecart drastically. Now imagine if I messaged Tarek, what do minecart? I wouldn't get nearly as much input from him, and my understanding of the interaction wouldn't be nearly as strong. Establishing and understanding context is one of the most important parts of asking a question. The better your question, the better the response. That's why I'm able to have intellectual conversations with top level Greninja players. Well, unless your name is Chowder. But yeah, while you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, it's up to you to make them good ones and do the research prior. Alright, so throughout this video, I've told you to go to therapy, clean your room, do your homework, and go to tutoring. Now that you've done all of that, I think that you finally earned permission to play with your friends. Let's talk about friendlies. Within the January form, one of the questions that I asked about matchups was, have you devoted time to learning to fight this character? If so, please state how. I'm not going to do the whole response corner bit again, but you can imagine some of the types of answers that I got. Apart from no, one of the most common responses that I got was playing in friendlies. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Through friendlies, you're naturally going to learn which of your options work against the opponent. It's just that whenever you're relying purely on friendlies, it might take you an hour of dash attacking Bayonetta's shield before you realize that maybe you shouldn't be dash attacking Bayonetta's shield. If you compare that to having lab dash attack in training mode and finding out that you essentially have a 50-50 on shield that kills, one of those sounds a little bit more worth a time investment to me. So let me speak anecdotally for a second. For the longest time, I did not understand friendlies. While I did play them like crazy, I didn't really understand what I was supposed to be getting out of a session. I'd always hear that friendlies are the place to learn and fish for interactions, but this really didn't make sense to me for a few reasons. First of which being the whole idea of fishing. If I were to devote my entire session to approaching Samus from the ground to punish her anti-air attempts, my opponent isn't a CPU. They're able to adapt to the fact that I'm fishing for this interaction in friendlies, and suddenly I'm not getting what I wanted out of the session. And if it's a rarer or more specific interaction, such as punishing her forward air from ledge, there's not much of an opportunity to practice this in a given session. On top of that, having to devote an entire 1 hour session to deal with one thing sometimes just isn't worth the time investment. So how do we optimize our friendlies? First of all, have a goal in mind. What do you want to get out of the session? Do you want to improve your defensive play, apply theory to an option, or stop jumping out of habit? Nobody knows your weaknesses as a player as well as you do, so this is your time to address and work on them. If you're having trouble with setting a specific goal, here's something that I stole from the homie Log. Remember how we talked about not taking away your options when theory crafting? Try playing handicapped and see how different your game plan becomes. As Greninja, going into a session without dash attack is going to completely change your world. Now you're going to have to rely on other options, and it'll really start to evolve the way that you see your character's kit. If I didn't go into a session with this mindset, I wouldn't have realized how well Greninja's pivot grab complements dash attack against safe landing aerials. So we have our goal. How do we address the fact that it's a big investment for improvement in only one area? Remember how we organize our matchup notes into neutral, advantage, and disadvantage? You can do that with friendlies too. Having a goal for each game state allows you to improve at any point of a game. Whether you're the one juggling or the one getting juggled, now you have something to work on. And now let's address that main point. What do you do when the opponent adapts? The way that I've personally gotten around this is by having a backup goal. For example, if I originally went into a session wanting to parry landing aerials, my opponent can eventually adapt and stop giving me those aerials. Instead of giving up on that goal, I can turn my attention to the backup goal of playing a more grounded whiff punish game. If they adapt to that, now I can cycle back to pairing landing aerials. If that sounds like a lot to remember, that's why you write it down in your handy dandy Notion. Friendlies are not a bad place to learn matchups at all, but at the same time, I feel that players often hyperfixate on them and become frustrated when they don't see results. That's why I personally consider Friendlies to be the final step of the process where you're able to apply everything that you've learned. And with that, I think we can finally say that we've learned how to learn a matchup. Congratulations, first grade graduates! As you can see, learning a matchup is a multi-stage process that really isn't as simple as asking, how do I beat Fox? Unfortunately, there is no magic pill that allows you to instantly learn how to beat one character while becoming more in tune with your own. Everything that you do in Smash Ultimate is a direct result of your invested effort and ability as a player. With that said, this game allows for so much creativity and expression. Even now that we're nearly 6 years into the game's release, there are still so many aspects of Smash Ultimate that are incredibly underexplored. Matchups are no different, and it's up to us as a player base to push the meta to its limits. I'll often see people saying that they wish that there's an Apple Ocean for their character, but trust me when I say that I started out just like all of you, going 0-2 at my locals, dash attacking on shield, and placing higher level players on a pedestal. Anyone can be an Apple Ocean, it just takes that initial step forwards. So instead of waiting for change, I wholeheartedly encourage you to take it upon yourself to be that change. And on that note, we finally finished another video. It only took a year, so that's not too bad, right? Which reminds me, I'm not sure if I've ever plugged my second channel here, so I'm gonna take the opportunity to do that now. If you haven't heard already, Mr. Apple Ocean is where I've been uploading more short form content that I don't necessarily plan on turning into full scale uploads here on the main channel. Over there, you can find uploads such as Greninja tech showcases, my personal tournament sets, or even the Summer of Matchups video guides. The uploads are also a lot more consistent, so it might be a nice place to get your Apple fix until I upload again in 2027. Speaking about the Summer of Matchups, thank you all so much for your support on this project. I know that it went a little bit under the radar, but I am incredibly thankful to those of you who helped write documents, answer questions, or engage with the posts in any way. I consider the project a great success, and because of that, I am weighing the potential of doing another season of Matchups project soon. If you have 5 minutes and would like to contribute, I've left another form in the description below. But please don't respond by saying touching the damn monkey. But yeah, with all that said, that's gonna be a video. Thank you all so much again for your support, and hopefully we'll be back soon with more content. But until then, there's one very important thing for us to remember that's always true regardless of the matchup. You already know what it is. Hold in!